Hello, my name is Angela Nwanga, and this is our Biodiversity and Conservation write-up, Overexploitation and its impact on biodiversity and conservation. One of our biggest threats to biodiversity worldwide is overexploitation, especially poaching. Poaching, which frequently targets endangered species, is the illegal hunting, capturing, or trading of wildlife for financial gain. The demand for animal parts like ivory, rhino horns, and tiger pellets is driving this practice, which is seriously upsetting ecosystems and hastening the extinction of species. The effects on biodiversity and ecosystem stability worsens as long as human activities continue to reduce wildlife population at unsustainable rates. In order to preserve the natural equilibrium and guarantee a sustainable future for future generations, poaching must be addressed. Long-term environmental harm results from overexploitation, which happens when natural resources are used more quickly than they can be replenished. One of the worst types of overexploitation of wildlife is poaching. Animals are targeted by poachers for their body parts, which are then sold on black markets. Particularly at risk from poaching are species like tigers, elephants, rhinoceros, and other marine animals. Tigers are frequently killed for their bones, pellets, and other body parts that are used in traditional medicine and as status symbols. Rhinos for their horn and elephants for their tusk.
Economic incentives are closely linked to the rise in poaching, as local communities may turn into illegal wildlife trade as a means of subsistence, particularly in places where access to alternative livelihoods is limited. Furthermore, poaching has persisted due to the demand for these illegal wildlife products, particularly in global markets. International laws, such as the Convention of International Trade Endangered Species, are ineffectively enforced and poaching persists. Given the vital role that wildlife is preserving biodiversity and ecosystem services, it is imperative that overexploitation and poaching be addressed. A species extinction upsets the delicate ecosystem balance, which can have a significant impact on habitat stability, food webs, and even climate regulation. Elephants, for instance, are referred to as a keystone species in many ecosystems due to the way they feed, which preserves the structure of savannas and forests. In a similar vein, an overabundance of prey species may result from the extinction of predators like tigers, which may damage vegetation and lower biodiversity. Serious economic repercussions also result from biodiversity loss, especially for communities that depend on wildlife for tourism. Furthermore, a lot of species offer vital functions that are necessary for agriculture and human welfare, like pollination, pest control, and seed distribution.
Poaching and overexploitation are caused by a variety of factors. One of the most important motivators is money, particularly in places where unemployment and poverty are common. Many people view poaching as an easy and profitable way to earn a living, frequently with little consideration for the long term effects. Cultural customs are also important because some cultures regard animal products, such as rhino horn or ivory, as status symbols or for medical purposes. Poaching threatens the survival of iconic animals like tigers, elephants, and rhinos, and pushes species to the verge of extinction, which has an impact on the biodiversity. Once extinct, these species are difficult to replace, which reduces genetic diversity and disrupts ecosystem processes. Because the illegal wildlife trade frequently coexists with the illegal logging and land clearing for development or agriculture, poaching further exacerbates the issue of habitat destruction. Poaching has effects that go well beyond the impacted species. The loss of animal populations has a direct effect on local communities that depend on wildlife for tourism. As animals become less common or more frequent to locate in their natural habitats, wildlife tourism, which brings in billions of dollars every year, suffers. For instance, poaching has made it difficult for regions that formerly had prides of lions or sizable herds of elephants to sustain their wildlife-based economy. Globally, the ecosystems that support life on Earth are endangered due to biodiversity loss. Food security, clean water, and disease control are all supported by biodiversity. Ecosystems become more delicate and susceptible to environmental stresses like climate change as species go extinct. In this way, poaching affects both human survival and animal welfare. To mitigate poaching and its impact on biodiversity, several strategies need to be implemented. Strengthening laws and enforcement to stop poaching. Governments must pass and implement stronger legislation. Trade regulation is greatly aided by international agreements, but national governments must also make protecting endangered species a top priority by funding law enforcement and anti-poaching initiatives. Engaging local communities. Reducing poaching requires involving local communities in conservation initiatives. Communities can profit monetarily from sustainable alternatives to illegal wildlife trade, such as ecotourism or sustainable agriculture. Reducing demand for wildlife products. Campaigns for public education are crucial in lowering the demand for goods like rhino horn and ivory. Consumer behavior can change away from supporting the illegal wildlife trade by increasing awareness of the negative effects of poaching. Conservation programs and protected areas. Protecting endangered species from the poaching can be achieved through funding breeding initiatives, protected areas, and wildlife reserves. For species to survive, habitat security and protection are essential.
Poaching will continue to have disastrous effects on biodiversity. If this continues to not be addressed, many targeted species will continue to decline, which will lead to the extinction of elephants, tigers, and rhinos, for example. This can put the food chain and ecosystem into an imbalance, which can cause prey to increase in population, which will cause the decline of vegetation, which is a limited resources already. We need healthy and sustainable ecosystem so we can continue to have purified water, pollination, and pest controls, which the ecosystem cannot provide unless we do something to prevent the decline of species due to poachers. In conclusion, poaching and overexploitation poses serious threats to both the ecosystem, which is at a risk worldwide, and our welfare, which, if we continue to ignore these warnings, will start to cause a decline on the human population. It is possible to reduce the number of species of being so close to extinction by enforcing stricter laws and by lowering demands as well. So we all must put a helping hand to stop overexploitation and poaching.